Hey guys, Vince Goes Fishing here, and I've got a few things I want to talk about. I'm going to tell you how you can get one of these 5-inch mini split ring pliers for free in just a moment, but first I have some other things to talk about. We have a member named Greg Encino in the California Surf Fishing Group. He asked me, when fishing swim baits in the surf, when would you use a Texas rig versus a drop shot versus a jig head or even a Carolina rig? It's an interesting question, and I love talking about swim baits. First of all, Texas rig is my go-to. Why? Because it's the most versatile, it's the most weedless, it's the most snagless. So you're kind of ready for anything in any event. I prefer to just tie on the Texas rig and use that and turn my attention to finding the fish rather than fussing with gear. So the Texas rig is my go-to. That being said, if it's really windy or if there's a lot of current and I still want to fish, I need more weight. So in that case, I'm going to go with the drop shot, with maybe 1.5 ounce torpedo weight on the bottom. That's going to let me cut through the wind and control my bait through the current. It will also help to use a smaller profile swim bait when you're drop shotting for that specific reason. If you're cutting through the wind, if you're dealing with current, you can use a heavy weight and a smaller bait, and it'll help you accomplish that. You don't really want to use a whole bunch of weight on a Texas rig, because then your bait is dropping like a rock to the bottom, and it kind of defeats the purpose of the snaglessness and the weedlessness, and it's not a very good presentation. The drop shot, you can fish heavy weight and the bait still remains sort of like suspended. The bait is basically weightless as you're fishing it because the weight is on bottom and the bait is just tied to your line. If you're dealing with a lot of wind, a lot of current, you want to keep going, try the drop shot with a heavier weight. That's the time that I would switch over from the Texas rig to the drop shot. As far as using jig heads, I don't really do that much. It's kind of like using a Texas rig with a bullet weight where all the weight is up front. I just don't like to fish that way because it tends to nosedive and drop vertically, and then I start snagging more and losing more rigs. I have noticed that the warbait jig heads with the weed guard have been surprisingly snagless, so they do a pretty great job of not getting snagged. But you really can't beat a Texas rig with all of the weight back on the hook. You see, that's balanced so that it's going to swim horizontally with all that weight back on the hook. If you keep your rod tip up and just keep your line tight, keep it moving very slowly, you're probably not going to snag. It's just going to pick up its head over everything. If you had all your weight up front, you would be nosediving into that. You'd have your line dragging over things. So the Texas rig with the weight far back, like on the extra long shank hooks, the XLS hooks, that's really going to be the greatest ticket for not snagging and dealing with weed. But again, I like to fish really lightweight with my Texas rigs. I'm talking about 3/8 ounce, ½ ounce at a most. If it's really calm, I can drop all the way down to the 1/4 ounce. I will always fish with the least amount of weight necessary to deal with the amount of wind and current that I'm fishing in. And the reason for that is the lighter the bait, the better the presentation. The more that thing's just going to be sinking really slowly, and it's going to look like a bait fish swimming through the water. I think the jig heads with all the weight up front are useful when you're fishing deep water and you want to actually get the vertical descent. So if you're fishing off a kayak, a boat, or in a harbor, if it's really deep, like I'm talking 15 feet plus, then sure, you could go with a jig head, get it to nose down to the bottom as soon as possible, and you'll have control that way. Or you could just fish with a Texas rig with ½ ounce and it'll kind of have the same effect. Carolina rig with swim baits, I rarely ever do it. I think I've only done it a couple times. I really like the idea though. When you have all the weight up on the line like that, with an egg weight, you're more likely to pick up seaweed or snag on that weight. So that's kind of why I avoid doing it. But if you're on a sandy bottom where there's no snag and the water's clean, then the advantage of the Carolina rig would be that your bait is going to be pretty much weightless and just drifting in the current. And that's a really nice, slow, natural presentation. So if you're fishing somewhere in like a bay, a harbor, it's sandy bottom, the water's clean, there's no weeds, there's no snags, yeah, you might want a Carolina rig with a nice long leader and put a swim bait on there and just let that sort of do like a really slow retrieve. I dig it. I think it's a really cool idea. I just don't do it very often because I'd rather stay versatile, ready for any dirty water that comes along, ready for any snaggy structure that comes along. So I always just go with that lightweight Texas rig. It's the way I love to fish. So I hope that explains the advantages, the disadvantages, the scenarios where you would fish any given bait. If you ask me, tie on the Texas rig, start with 3/8 ounce. If you can get away with it, drop down to 1/4 ounce. If you need it, go up to ½ ounce. That's how I prefer to fish anyways. All right, before I tell you how to get a free pair of these Battlestar split ring pliers, I want to tell you that California Surf Fishing is coming out with some new merch. We've got a whole nice new batch of hoodies, zip-up hoodies, pullover hoodies, t-shirts, long sleeve shirts. We've also ordered them with white print on royal blue. It's gonna look super sweet. The white on blue looks great. So that's coming out at the end of this month. Keep your eyes open for that new merch. You can jump on it as soon as we've got them up on our website. Finally, guys, you never know when the fish of a lifetime is gonna bite, and you don't wanna miss that hook set. And the key to that is using sharp hooks. So it's really important. I wanna encourage you guys for this. We're at the beginning of the 2024 season. You wanna get as many trophy fish under your belt this year as possible. So what I'm gonna suggest is that you make a commitment to always fish with razor sharp hooks, whether you're sharpening them yourself back at home or you're just buying a brand new one. So how do you keep brand new razor sharp hooks on your jerk baits? I don't resharpen treble hooks. I use brand new treble hooks. Trying to sharpen treble hooks is kind of a challenge. I'd rather just put on a cheap new hook. And how do you change your hooks? Well, you need split ring pliers. These are the Battlestar replacement treble hooks. You've got the stock 2X hooks that come on the 115, and then this is the 3X, which is a little heavier. If you're going to be fishing for striped bass, I'd recommend these. Anything else, perch, halibut, you name it, these are going to work just fine. These are very, very strong hooks, the 2X I'm talking about. But the 3X hooks, you know what? I usually just go ahead and put these on anyways, because you never know when a big striped bass is going to come by and bite, right? So just in case. And how are you going to change your hooks? Well, you need mini split ring pliers. And the key to that is you need tiny, tiny little jaws at the end in order to deal with these split rings. Your standard split ring pliers are not going to work. The kinds that are used for tuna lures and stuff, you need micro split ring pliers. These are mini split ring pliers, okay? And what I like about these is that it forces you to use the jaws at the very tip, which prevents you from malforming your split rings. These are great. I suggest keeping them at home because they do have a tendency to rust. I change my hooks at home so that my jerkbaits have sharp new hooks. They're ready to go. And then I hit the beach and go fishing. How can you get a set of these Battlestar 5-inch mini split ring pliers for free? It's real simple. You go to casurffishing.com, place any order, $35 or more, add the products to your cart, click view cart, then click add a note and type free pliers, then check out as usual. We'll receive your order. We'll see that the subtotal is over $35, and then we'll go ahead and drop those free mini split ring pliers in the shipment for you. So that way you can keep your hooks changed, live up to that New Year's resolution to fish with sharp hooks and get those hook sets, and maybe at the end of the year you'll have a bunch more trophies to show for. All right, guys, I hope those tips are really helpful. I hope you enjoy your free split ring pliers. This is your last call. This deal ends Sunday, the 14th, January 14th, 2024. So you've got to get your order in before then. Limit 1 per customer. We're only doing 200 of these on this promo. All right, so that's Vince Goes Fishing signing off. I'll see you guys in the group, California Surf Fishing CSF.